Hello students, now this is the second video of lesson 7. The topic is conservation of forest and wildlife resources. So let us start. See, there are many methods of conservation of forest, like we can do plant harvesting, cutting only some of the trees in an area, and the uncut trees prevent erosion and produce seeds so that new trees can grow. And afforestation, planting more and more trees to renew the forest again. Thirdly, protection from forest fires by spraying fire extinguishing solutions from aircraft or by changing the direction of the wind by using strong blowers. Protection and from insects, pests by using insecticides and fungicides and removing infected trees. Protection from overgrazing, yes, by providing pastures which can be used by rotation. Wildlife conservation is closely related to forest conservation. When a forest is destroyed, a large number of animals become extinct or endangered. So to conserve the habitat of endangered animals, it is necessary to protect the forest. Now there are certain steps to be taken to conserve wildlife, like habitat preservation. Preserving the habitat of wildlife helps in their conservation. Preventing deforestation is an important method of habitat preservation. Afforestation provides shelter and food for the wildlife. Hunting regulation, like government regulation related to hunting and their effective implementation, is very important for wildlife conservation. Illegal hunting of animals is called poaching, and it should be banned. In India, though the hunting tiger is banned, they are being regularly killed as their skin and bones fetch large amount of money. Effective implementation of such laws is therefore of extreme importance. So, how we can prevent the forest? There are certain methods by which we can prevent the forest, like creating the protected area for the habitat preservation. Protected area like Biosphere Reserve can be made, National Park can be made, wildlife sanctuaries can be established. Okay, now let us see one by one what are Biosphere Reserve, what is National Park, and what is wildlife sanctuaries. National Park. They are the areas reserved for wildlife where they can freely use the habitat and natural resources. Means a national park is a park in use for conservation purpose. Often it is a reserve of natural, semi-natural or developed land that a sovereign state declares or owns. So national park provides the habitat for the wild animals. Okay. Now, Biosphere Reserve. It is a unique representative ecosystem of terrestrial coastal areas which are internationally recognized within the framework of UNESCO. Man and Biosphere Program. Initiated by UNESCO again in 1973 to 74. According to World Network of Biosphere, 631 biosphere reserves in 119 countries. Like in India, for example, Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve, the Panchmari Biosphere Reserve, the Sundarbans Biosphere Reserve, and the Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve. Okay. So, Biosphere Reserve is the area that promotes and demonstrates balanced relationship between people and nature. Now, wildlife sanctuaries, difference between wildlife sanctuaries and national park. Wildlife sanctuaries refer to an area that provides protection and natural living conditions to the wildlife, whereas national park provides protection to the entire plants and animals and landscape of that region. Restrictions are less, it is open to public, wildlife sanctuaries, whereas Highly restricted random access to people is not allowed in the national park. Okay. Next, now the difference between wildlife sanctuaries and biosphere reserves. It is an wildlife sanctuary. It's an area within which animals are protected from possible dangers such as hunting. Their habitat is also conserved in this area. Whereas it is it is protected area constructed for the conservation of biodiversity. It provides protection and suitable living condition to wild animals. It helps in the conservation of various life forms such as plants, animals, and microorganisms. Panchmari Sanctuary is a wildlife sanctuary. Panchmari Biosphere Reserve is a popular biosphere reserve. Okay. Now, sanctuaries. Let us see the sanctuaries now. Wildlife sanctuaries are protected forest preserve wildlife. Sanctuary is an area where killing, hunting, shooting, or capturing of any species of bird or animal is prohibited, except by or under the control of highest authority in the department responsible for the management of sanctuary and whose boundaries and character should be circumscribed as far as possible. So, in our country, in India, there are number of wildlife sanctuaries and national park managed by government. Okay, where cutting down trees and hunting or capturing of animals in these area reserves is strictly prohibited. A biosphere reserve may have national parks and wildlife sanctuaries within it. For example, the Panchmari Biosphere Reserve in Madhya Pradesh contains one national park, that is Satpura National Park, and two wildlife sanctuaries, Bori and Panchmari, within it. Some other national parks are Bandipur National Park, Gar Forest National Park, and Kaziranga National Park. Some other wildlife sanctuaries are Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary, Kutch Wildlife Sanctuary, Karakoram Wildlife Sanctuary, and many more. So students, in this video we have done about to preserve the habitat of for wild animals by creating biosphere reserve, wildlife sanctuaries, and the national park. Now, come to the question. Saving paper means saving trees. Why? Can you answer this question? Just find out the answer of this question and write it in your copy. Question is, saving paper means saving trees. Why? Thanks for now.